a truly remarkable woman.
I came into nursing in the late 1960s, and as a black nurse, I was very conscious that so-called black conditions were just not being addressed. I visited one mother at a time when her son was lying on the sofa, doubled up in pain. She was crying her eyes out, and she was asking me, what could she do? I hadn't even heard of the illness. I couldn't help her. It really upset me, actually. It really did, because no child should suffer like that.
Elizabeth was witnessing the impact of a genetic blood disorder that primarily affects African and Caribbean communities. It's known as sickle cell disease and causes extreme pain, organ failure, and even death.
I was diagnosed with sickle cell at the age of 3. I don't think it's a pain that you can ever imagine. I remember my father was sitting next to me, and I just looked at him in his eyes and said, Dad, do you think it would be better off if I had died or if I would die? Because it would just take this pain away.
Despite sickle cell disease affecting thousands of people in this country, we knew nothing about it. We were taught nothing about it. Young people were dying with this illness. It was absolutely outrageous.
The 60s and 70s were another country so far as clinical care of black people was concerned. We simply didn't exist. It was nothing short of scandalous.
The NHS had to get to grips with this condition. I was fuming. I was so mad. Something had to change, and quickly.
Elizabeth travelled to the US to study the disease, and in 1979 became the UK's first sickle cell nurse specialist. She immediately sought funding to set up a sickle cell centre in Brent.
Absolutely thousands of people contacted the centre. People were coming from the north of England, from Wales. I couldn't believe it. People were desperate.
Can't you see about something in particular?
This went on my own for 6 years. Just me.
Determined to spread awareness, Elizabeth took to the road, launching a series of nationwide campaigns.
I became the information officer for the newly formed Sickle Cell Society, and one of our campaigns was to write to every single MP in the country.
This was about activism. She came into that situation as a clinician and as a black woman at a critical time. She couldn't be ignored.
We were finally starting to break through. People were contacting me from up and down the country to set up similar centres. As a result, patients were accessing services more easily, and they had a voice, a national voice, at last.
How are you feeling?
Thanks to Elizabeth, patients with sickle cell disease are now fully supported in the NHS with life-saving treatments.
Elizabeth's campaigning also led to a national screening programme where every newborn in the UK has to be screened for sickle cell disease.
Elizabeth's legacy? Love. Love in action. Not as some soft sentiment, but as a strategy for change.
If it wasn't for Elizabeth, I don't believe I would be here. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Our Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Professor Dame Elizabeth Anyanwu.
Extraordinary story, and one where you had this fierce anger about what was happening, and you went out and you did something. Your work continues, doesn't it? I know that blood transfusions and blood donations is something that's very high on the agenda.
The NHS has now got sickle and thalassemia, another disorder, much higher on the agenda now. So there's a cadre of sickle and thalassemia nurses. There's a combined campaign to recruit more donors from similar backgrounds. But I have to say, one of the many reasons I'm pleased to be here is that it's giving an opportunity for sickle cell to have a much higher profile, and I'm really pleased about that.
And obviously you're a huge supporter of the NHS.
Yes, definitely.
Yes,
Yes.
and the care and the love that comes
Yes,
from that.
and hold on, I can't do maths like you. A year older than the NHS. So it means a lot to me. I've grown up with it and it's helped me enormously.
Now, we're talking about numbers, and we wanted to find a way to express the numbers of people that you and your work has specifically helped in the UK. So if everybody could get their phones out. You see this sea of lights? Every single one represents more than 30 people whose lives you have helped. And altogether, it's over 25,000 people. And we just want to say thank you on behalf of all the people these lights represent to you, Professor Dame Elizabeth Anyonu.
Thank you so much.
To present your award, she sold over 100 million records worldwide, and she herself has championed civil rights and female empowerment. Please welcome Miss Janet Jackson.